first of all, welcome everybody here and see how grateful we are that you're with us this evening as we celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Gibson Moral Fund dinner. It started out really as a Thanksgiving dinner, and in the first 9 years it was the Theodore Gibson Thanksgiving dinner, and then we started the Unity dinner as the suggestion of Rabbi Bumgard, who said, Thelma, we need to start honoring people. And if we're talking about unity, it has to be people from the different communities. And so this dinner is honoring people from the African American community, the Hispanic community, as well as the white, non-Hispanic white community. And we're just so happy that you allowed us to honor you over these past 16 years. And the honorees who are here this evening, we want you to know that we're grateful for all that you've done to help unite this community. I think everybody who knew Theodore Gibson knew he was about uniting the international community of Miami-Dade County, as well as the state of Florida, having people be able to communicate with one another. His whole life was all about education and communication. And so the Memorial Fund was started after his death 25 years ago, just to remember some of the things that he wanted. And it was Elizabeth Varick who suggested that we have an educational component to whatever it is that we're going to do. We have completed our short-term goals. I think you ought to know that we have an endowed scholarship fund at his alma mater, St. Augustine's College in Raleigh, North Carolina. We give funds to Florida Memorial University as well as Miami-Dade College and the United Negro College Fund. And along with that, we gave an organ to Christ Episcopal Church. So those were the short-term things, only to remember the man that we know who loved music, who loved education, and who felt that this was the way that we should include all the people in our lives.
Here is a southern community where you have no inhibitions, and this to me is a good thing for Miami.
Theodore Gibson was born in Miami, as many people thought he was born in the Bahamas. He was actually born in Miami in 1915. He was an active priest. He became president of Miami branch NAACP in 1954.
He was a selfless person. He gave his all for the upliftment of his people. And it was not only people of color for which he concerned himself, but for all people who were on the outer fringes of society. It did not matter what color you were. If you needed to be lifted up, he put his life out there for that.
I first met Father Gibson a block away from his church. I went to see Bill Baggs, who was the editor of the Miami News. I wanted to run for public office, and I wanted to run for a City of Miami Commission seat. And Bill Baggs told me that the first person I needed to talk to was Theodore Gibson. So I went to Father Gibson's home at the rectory, a block away from the church in Coconut Grove. He really grilled me. Man, he grilled me.
I didn't think Miami was the best place for me, and I was ready to leave. And until my mother told me that about racism. She said, well, wherever you go, you're going to run into what you're running away from. So why don't you stay here and do something about it? And at that time, I was really not strongly into the civil rights struggle, but then that turned me around, because if I was going to stay here, we had to do something about it. And that's when I really hooked up with Gibson in the NAACP. And he was the kind of president who was an activist. He would stop by my office on Monday. What kind of wrong are we going to right this week?
I think politicians today can learn a lot from Father Gibson, especially when I look around Miami and see the great racial divide that he warned us about. He said if Miami is going to be a city of note, it must drop all of its ethnic identities, Little Haiti, Little Havana, Little Jamaica, and it must be one city irrespective of color and class.
I remember many years prior to him becoming a commissioner, I knew Father Gibson because always he was involved in city and city politics. But when there became a vacancy on the city commission, one of the things that we thought would be best was to have someone of the character of Father Gibson. And so I was designated to go and talk with him about his possibility of going on the city commission. And we had a very nice conversation, but it didn't end very well because he told me, you can't say anything to Thelma. Because if you tell Thelma, Thelma's going to talk us all out of it. Well, I followed his advice and I didn't tell Thelma, and Father became a commissioner in the city of Miami to our all great aspects.
It's hard to think of myself as his little child, but I remember so distinctly my father would take me down to his church in Coconut Grove, right across the school there on Douglas Road, and we'd go through the back church. He had a little entry and a couple of stairs, and we'd go inside, and my father was so respectful, and my father was sort of a very proud Cuban. He was very proud of his roots, and Reverend Gibson was always very poised and very gentlemanly like, and so we suddenly became the same way. We went in, and there was Reverend Gibson, and he was so powerful.
He was tough.
You know, Gib was a man who took it and went straight with it, and it always was said, well, why doesn't he be able to bend? And he was not a man who would bend. He was by the book. He was a man who was going to do exactly the way he thought, and that's the way he did it. But any particular episode in particular, I just think that across the board, he was a man of the people.
One that I remember was that one Sunday morning, I don't know what started just before church, there was a discussion, and he and a young man got into an argument, and Father invited him outside and told him that he would take off his collar and roll up his sleeve and would get it straightened out. My mother went and spoke to him and told him that the man did not have anything to lose, but he had so much to lose because it was his career as well as the feeling of, I guess, being the type of person that would fight at the drop of a hat. But he was very outspoken, and you could take it or leave it. That was Father.